Cool. Can you guys see that, or it's recording?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So let's start. Let's start with Ashray and your burning question.
Oh, well, as I said, one of the things that I've always been wondering is trying to look at a broader perspective into a product. So how it, unfolds within the market, trying to understand uh, like how basically a part of market research is very important when you are releasing a product, right? So I just wanted to understand, how do you develop this broader perspective into a product looking at 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line? Another area that I'm actually really a bit confused about is through certain ways, because I come from a mechanical engineering background, and now I am into edtech, and I'm trying to take a lot more initiatives. So I wanted to see like how much of a technical influence do I need if I have to get into a product management role, because through the AMA sessions at the Slack group, I really got a perspective that even if you are skilled with one particular aspect, you have to have an understanding about different areas within product management itself. It might be analytical or engineering or design. So I wanted to understand how much, what are the current gaps right now, mostly within the applications of product management, like probably like wireframing or developing a product requirement document or a functional requirement document. How do I scale up to this? Because I have been trying to interview with a few companies, and I gave them these PRD documents, FRD documents, but I didn't exactly get a feedback on them. So I don't really understand how to upskill myself so that I'll be able to develop to the industry standards at the moment.
Sure. Before I jump into that, what were the product requirements document examples that you showed specific to their company, or was it just other projects that you've done?
Well, it's kind of another project. It was part of the assignment they had given to me trying to develop a form which will help them with the hiring process.
Yeah.
So it was about that. So I had to create a product requirement document to understand how would this form look like.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was something that I worked on. Other than that, it's just researching about product strategies. There was one instance in India when restaurants started pulling out of the organization called Zomato, because they were charging a lot of like deep discounting issues and all were happening within the app itself. So that was actually taking a really bad toll on the restaurants. So they started walking out of the initiative. There was this gold program within Zomato itself, which allows you to take 2+2. I think you might also know this program.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so, no, all good. I'll share a couple of thoughts, because let me just share my screen. So you mentioned, one of the questions was about what should you go off and study or learn or figure out, right? I am a type of person that I love to be curious, and I know that as a product manager, you tend to work with a lot of different people, right? And most of the time it's usually designers, developers, business folks, analytics folks, right? So knowing that you're going to work with all these people, I always tend to just be curious in those areas, because the more that I'm curious, the more that I can learn about those areas. Not necessarily be a master. I'm not going to be a master designer or a master developer, right? I just want to be curious. I just want to know certain things, right? One of the ways I do this is for technology for technology, let's say, right? I think I mentioned in the AMA, but anytime I go to a site, so let's say we go to, let's say you're really you really want to work for Hulu, right? And you know, you, one of the things that I always try to do is I just try to get a sense of like what type of team they have, right? What, from a technology, from a design, like what are the things that they're introducing, and you know, using this tool built with, I can really almost like have these super secret skills of knowing what Hulu, the technology is for it, right? So it's mostly used for web-based you know, products, but you know, one of the ways that I love to just be curious about is just to run a built with assessment. It shows you what are all the things that are being used by that product or that website, and it's actually a great way for you to dive a little bit deeper and to be like, I've never heard of, I don't know, Telium, right? What is this, right? Again, having your curiosity take you somewhere. And so by doing that, you start to naturally, you know, develop more of these skill sets, or the, not skill sets, more of this intuition about technology, right? For design, I like to go to Page Flows, right? Page Flows is a site that allows you to see other people's, other products experiences when it comes to different tasks like user onboarding, you know, upgrading, right? These are all things that today exists in the market, and things that designers have thought through and have done, right? And I use this as a way, again, to kind of pique my interest and my curiosity around design, and how other people approach design problems, right? And this is also a great way to develop good relationships with your designers, because then you can also be like, hey, I saw this really cool experience on this one site, and they love this stuff, right? Just like a developer would love to see this stuff, like how are other people's websites built, what are they using, right? So it's really knowing, like, knowing who your potential partners or teams are, and dabbling enough just so you can actually, you know, have good conversations with them, right? I've put together, I'm going to share this. I have a, what's it called, a spreadsheet of all of this, but I'll share this out. I have bookmarked so many different things. I use Pocket, and every time I find something that's really, you know, specific to something that I really like, I'll bookmark it. And I've bookmarked it against different tags. So like I have a design. So I have stuff about design, right? And it can be just like things that I've seen that I'm curious. I'll just bookmark it, right? I can reference it back and talk to my designers about. Maybe it's analytics, right? Maybe there's an analytics thing that I came across and I thought it was really, really powerful, really useful for the future, right? So I would recommend for you, start kind of building up your list of just resources and in the different areas, right? Of like analytics, design, development, right? Even just product in general, right? So that way you start to build a little bit more confidence in these different areas, right? So that's number one. Number two, it's, in my mind, all about also doing, so I kind of mentioned it and I'll kind of jump right into it. Product audits, right? That's what I call them. And it's, in a way, it's almost like it's a way to offer someone, like, let's say you're going to go work for a company and they don't ask you for a products requirement document, right? That's fine. You can create something like this where you just look at this, you look at the site, you give your assessment, right? You look at what are all the pain points, maybe what are all the findings that you see and you recommend about a specific experience. I mean, I included things like SEO and, you know, search, page speed, but it doesn't have to only be that. It can be other things like recommendations on the user experience, right? At the end of the day, here's what I always say is that, people build products in order to serve a problem, right? Plain and simple. You don't build a product for yourself, you build a product for other people. And the more you can think about the other person or the people that are on the other side, right? The more you can empathize, the better product manager you become. And, the moment you can actually share that with, whoever the hire manager is, you instantly have their attention, right? So definitely, I'll send this as a template. Definitely use this. I mean, and I've used this actually, this idea of a product audit for multiple scenarios where, let's say I just want to meet someone for the first time. Like, again, I'm using the expertise that I have, and everyone most of the days now has a website or an app, and some of them could use some help, right? And so, like, I actually have done this where I'll go in and I'll look at a site and just kind of do a breakdown and address, like, what are some of the things that you could resolve, and use it as a way to start a connection, start a conversation. Be like, hey, thank you, Jay Shetty, right? Jay, he's actually one of my, I'm doing coaching with him. But it's almost like my way of saying thank you, right? And when you can share this audit as a way to say, hey, here are all the things that I found, I can help you. I do this kind of stuff all the time. You start to develop a bit more authority, right? And you become a little bit more, you can start to practice as well your skills, right? Of like, okay, if I were to be a product manager for Jay, and I want to make this like really cool thing, like, what would I bring? What would I do? Right? You start to do those things, and you start to learn those new skills that you need. Right? So that's one thing. No, that's the second thing. And then I'll end with this, in that when it comes to, every single product, I always try to have people do a measurement plan. And a measurement plan is the perfect way to really assess whether or not you're building a product that is successful. Like, how do you know if a product is successful, right? Having a measure plan is what allows you to do that in my mind, right? So here's an example of a measurement plan that I've created, where you list out, like, what is the business objective, what is the strategy, what are the tactics or goals, right, that you're trying to address, and then what are the actual KPIs, like what are the segments and how you're going to measure success, right? So it's like these things that you can pull from and have as part of your arsenal when you're, let's say, trying to interview with someone, right? These are the things you can show and be like, okay, if I was your product manager, right, I would fix this. Here's why, right? Here's how I would measure the success. Here's why. And also, as far as the market goes, a good way to assess the market or assess your competitors, I like to use SimilarWeb. I'm not sure if you've seen that. It's a service that allows you to, look at they do their best estimation at giving you insights into that product. So you can see here Hulu, right? It gives you kind of an estimate of how much traffic they're getting, right? It tells you a little bit about where the users are in terms of countries. It doesn't give you all information, but it's enough to kind of get you started and to know, like, how big is this market of people that are on and using Hulu, right? So you're looking at around 200 million people. And then you go on to Netflix and you realize, you're like, let's see how much Netflix had. I think it was 2 billion the last time I saw it.
That's really huge.
Yeah, 2 billion, right? On a monthly, over 2.3. And this is definitely just like estimated. I'm sure they have more, right? But this kind of gives you now a sense of like the size of it, right? And some data around that.
I understand. Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes, yes, definitely. Regarding this, like how do you develop this vision of a product? Like you know what you're doing, you know about the product, you know how it will reach your market, but then how do you work on improving them? Like look at a vision where 10 years down
Yes.
the line, I see my product as this.
Yes, I will. I'll share it with you. So there's a concept that I've been using now for a while, and that's jobs to be done. Are you guys familiar with that?
No.
I'm familiar with it. I think the Clayton Christensen
Yeah.
has written a very nice article on how, on what has to be, what we have to be thinking, right? When we create a product, we create the products to get the jobs to be done. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I always use jobs to be done in terms of like addressing a problem or really addressing a problem. That is the start of everything, right? It's so what jobs to be done, if you haven't heard of it, it's people they usually use a product because they want it to do something. They want it to do a job for them. And
And
the way that you make, let's say, a competitor to something that beats Google or Apple is when you can figure out what are all the jobs or the job steps. Kind of, let's see if I can find a good visual, because there's a really good visual that I like to reference. Jobs to be done. Yeah, I think this one is a good one. Okay, so let's take for the example the problem or the task, the job of getting to a destination on time, right? That is the job of like a person. Like they want to get to a destination on time. And so right now there are
yep.
products that do that, right? There are map products like Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, right? All products that help a person get to complete that task, that job. But I would argue that they're not the right solution to address all of the different steps in the actual process of getting to a destination on time. So if you actually take a step back and you say, okay, what are all the steps that it takes to get to a destination on time? Well, you have to estimate the departure time. You have to determine how much time to allow for vehicle vehicle preparation. You got to determine how much time to allow for typical travel conditions, right? All of this stuff, all the way even down to like park the car, walk to the destination, and boom, you're there, right? When you can actually build a solution that addresses one of these job steps or all of the job steps that is faster and more accurate than your competitors, then you know you have a product that is worth investing in, right? So for example, let's say, right now, if you were to figure out like how long does it take for me to figure out the most optimal path to get to 5 different destinations. Like let's say I want to get to 5 different places, right? There is no, well, I mean, I would say probably Google Maps has this now where you can actually add the different destinations, right? But what if you wanted to know, like you wanted to figure out what is the best route or the best way of optimizing your time so that way you hit all of those 5 places and you do it in a way where it beats traffic and all that stuff, right? There's no product right now that does that. And so if you're able to address that if you're able to make that one of these job steps complete and faster than the competitors, then you have a winning or a product worth going after. And so I can share a couple good resources for jobs to be done, but that is one of those areas that's definitely worth, I would say, if you were to invest some time in, focus on jobs to be done and actually applying it and using jobs to be done in like in random things. Like for example, like think about what are the jobs steps for, I don't know, getting into a happy mood, right? With music, right? if you can think through and identify all the job steps, it's a good practice, right? Of figuring out what are all the steps, right? Listing them all out, and then saying, okay, what could I do to address those, to address this whole thing and make it faster and more accurate? That's the way products usually succeed. You know, people, I think, tend to try and sometimes build a solution and search for a problem, which is wrong, right? You have to look at the problem, look at why it's a problem, and assess how long does it take, and is it very accurate? You know, I'm sorry, look at solutions and see how long it takes, and is it very accurate? And then if you can figure out a way to make it faster and more accurate, then you know it's worth pursuing.
I understand.
Awesome. Cool. Let's move on to
Rich, just my 2 cents, right? So in the past, in our enterprise organizations, we always tend to write the PRDs and the MRDs. Now going into an agile kind of a work, we tend not to write those 50 pages, 100 pages document, and we try to have 1 or 2 pages that would dictate the overall market, the market, the market size or the market research, and just the product vision, and just enough for 2 to 3 sprints of what we need to achieve. As just enough design, and then we start iterating it. At least we have swayed away from creating huge documentations with a new agile kind of an approach. And Avaya is being now treated as one of the we treat ourselves in terms of product management as a legacy based company. So what I'm saying is, like, we are trying to move away from most of this rich documentations and try to be as iterative and as dynamic, because the technology itself is changing every 6 months. We can't adapt to the changes, right? So we cannot think of 5 years or 10 years as Ashray was saying, and the long term is 1 year and the short term is 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And yes, I'm trying to find an example of a strategic brief or a product brief that I've done in the past, but you know, there is also a nice like format to creating what you're saying, right? Like a essentially a brief, right? So if anyone were to look at this document, it gives you a sense of like, who's your target audience, who, you know, what is the business, what are the objectives, what are the priorities, right? Because those are the things that no matter who you work with, everyone's going to ask those questions, right? You work with a designer, they're going to want to know this. You work with a developer, they're going to want to know this. You work with sales, they're going to want to know this. And so having like a product brief or a product strategic brief is a great way to help everyone align and know what is the vision. I'm trying to find it, and I don't see my example right now. I'm trying to see if I can find my Disney example, because
the one which is also greatly valued, what people start referring is the press release from Amazon. They basically now try to create a 2-page product vision document, and it has an structure. I think we should be able to find it in the Google. It's not more than 2 pages. It's very crisp kind of a document.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, less is always more, and it's hard. It's actually, I always say it's actually harder to do less, to concise and consolidate everything, because you know, you want to say so much, but at the end of the day, you know, people's attention span is very limited. So you have to really convince people, really show people like what is the problem, why you're doing it, and explain that in as short as possible. I don't see my Disney example here. As I look for it, why don't we switch gears to Nimit and cover your question.
Sure. Rick, before I ask my question, Just a small question, which will probably take like 30 seconds to answer.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jay, right? So I've been following Jay for years and years, and I love
Yeah.
his content. And
Yes.
I noticed that you're coaching with him. So I just wanted to, I've actually kind of considered that a lot of times. I just wanted your very quick review on if I should try that out.
Yes. I mean, I'm doing the Genius coaching. And so it is amazing. I mean, I actually got a chance to meet him. He was here in LA, and well, he lives here in LA, and I went out to one of his events. And I mean, Jay has been kind of my inspiration of the type of, role model that I want to be. One that is
Mm-hmm.
very attuned to their own inner strength, and also
Mm-hmm.
a person who wants to give back. Right. I'm not a monk,
Right.
but I definitely can relate to the fact that, I struggled a lot when I was younger, especially with reading and writing. And I actually, I've mentioned this recently that I
Yeah.
struggle with dyslexia. And, now it's like I finally became open about it and started sharing about it. And it's actually opened up a lot of amazing opportunities, but also has helped more people understand their own self and their own
Yeah.
weaknesses, but also seeing them as positives, right? So I recommend it.
Absolutely. Sounds awesome. Yeah, I also read your post on LinkedIn, I think, when you were sharing about
Oh
your
yeah, yeah, yeah.
childhood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll shoot my question now. So just a little bit of context before that. So when I went for the feedback round, it was with the Agile Transformation coach. So what she told me was that they were looking at me as a strong candidate, but my pitch was lacking this one dimension, which is how to extract the maximum value from your team, how to take your team forward together, and really those people management skills. So a little bit about myself. I was an introvert for a long time in my life, and now I've like kind of I'm now moving away from that, so it's still a ongoing transformation. So I'm not a very people's person. I mean, I'm trying to be, but really right now I'm not. Okay. So that, and that is why when these opportunities came up, instead of going for a chapter lead role, which is purely people management, more of people management, I chose to go towards PO, which is more product management, which was going to be less people management, right? But after the interviews, I kind of realized that even in product management, you need to have those people management skills as well. They're not the first thing you require, but they're a necessity at a very uh, in a very subtle way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just wanted to ask you how I can tackle this and how I can build a roadmap for myself to
Yes.
improve in this direction.
Oh man, I love that question. Build a roadmap for yourself, because I've done this, and this is like, I mean, I've been in product management for, like I said, almost going on 10 years. And one of the things that I've always done, even aside from product management, is always like transformation. Like I want to always improve myself, make myself better in all different areas. And only recently did I realize that like a lot of the product management frameworks and methodologies can be applied to your own life. And like I was like a light bulb went in my head, like you know when you build a product, there's always usually a vision, there's a roadmap, there's goals, there's KPIs, all that stuff, right? And people build successful products because of it. And then you think about your life, and it's like, well, like it's the same, like but we don't do this. And so I've
Yeah.
gone for the past few years now, I've been kind of following this like roadmap building exercise for my own life, of like, what do I want my life to be like for the next year, 3 year, like almost like a 3 to 5 to 10 year vision. And like my roadmap for my life of like, how do I improve? And,
Hmm.
you know, let me share, I'm not sure if you've actually seen, but I did do something. and I have a template for it as well. And I'm actually, you know, I'm starting to be more like going more product management, or I'm starting to use tools that are specifically product management, like Trello. But I'll show you first like what this is. So this is kind of like, in a way, my initial MVP of a product, of a life roadmap, where like, you know, in a way, similar to like a product, right? You always have to have like a roadmap of where you'd like to be in the next month, 2 months, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I did this for not just my, you know, my career, but I also did it in the other areas. Call them my 8 Fs, right? Faith, family, finance, fitness, friends, figurehead, fun. I'm listing one, but anyway, so this is like one thing, one way to help me. And so it sounds like for you, you know, the social part, right? Being able to have connections with people. I mean, naturally being an introvert is one of those areas that you can probably work on, right? And so that can be like your friends area, right? And so how do you improve that? Well, you know, one of the ways that I've improved is just by, you know, joining groups and meeting new people, honestly, right? And finding ways of like, you know, giving or adding value, right? I think one of the greatest lessons that I've learned is that the best way to have connections with people is it shouldn't just be a like, give me, right? It should be almost like a, like, you know, offering and serving and helping other people, right? And so that's one of the biggest advice that I will give to you is like, you know, how can you connect into groups that are, you know, like-minded people, and how can you give to them? Like, what can you give to them based off of your experience and your knowledge? And that's the same way with relationships and with people, right? So if you're going to manage a team, right, it's all about, okay, what, and knowing and being present with those people, knowing what it is, knowing their families, knowing the things they love, knowing the things they hate, right? And I mean, for me, I tend to forget, so I try to write things down. Like if I meet a new person, one of the things I always try to do is I literally try to write down all the little facts that I know about that person. Like if they have a dog, if they, you know, they went to Italy, blah, 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 right? And I add them in my contacts, and I have those notes, and I refer back to them, and I try to use those as talking points for the next time, right? So that's an area that you can also improve and use and do. So I'll send this to you, and then I'll send also, so I'm working on this. It's still in progress, but I'm using Trello. Are you familiar with Trello?
Yeah, I'm actually using the same. I'm using Trello as well, and I went actually super crazy with it. Like I'm doing a couple week sprint for myself. So,
No, perfect. And that's exactly what I was doing here. So I converted that and I put it in here, and you know, I've kind of almost similar, created some checklist things of like what I want to do, what I want to cover. And it's actually been really good. It's like keeping me on track. It's visual. I can move things around. Right. And so, you know, I know this is about product management and everything, but I think in order to be a great product manager, you need to work on yourself. You need to work on like other areas, right? Like knowing, you know, what are your values, knowing, you know, what makes you happy, what do you love, those things, and focus on that. And then once you know that, then you can start to be like, okay, how can I bring my full self to product management or to the company, right? And you start to make decisions of where you want to work based off of your values, right? And so, you know, for me, my values are health and wellness, constantly learning, education, and you know, having fun and entertainment. And that's those values right there have literally been the reasons why I've been at the jobs that I've been, right? Johnson & Johnson, healthcare company, right? Disney, entertainment, happiness, fun, and then now InStride, education, right? And so you start to mold yourself into a more interesting person when you can really know your values, and when you talk to people, it comes out, right? Like if you want to work for, you know, I don't know, let's say Hulu, because you absolutely love watching and you love the fact that you can learn and things like that, then that stuff comes out, and and that's what people want to hear, right? Is the stories, your stories. So sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but as far as like the feedback for, what you can do to improve, to summarize, I would say, yeah, work on the social aspect by connecting with like-minded people, and really making an effort to get to know people, know what their desires and interests and all that stuff is, and try to give them something of value, right?
All right.
For the pure joy of knowing you've helped someone out.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. Thanks.
Awesome. What else was I going to show you? Nope, that's not it. Okay, I'll stop sharing. All right. So we have Vinod.
Yeah, Rich. I think the two things where I wanted some help. The first one is if you can spare some time and help review my resume and see if you got any feedback. The second is how I could start doing an side projects,
Yes.
that would be really helpful.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna give you two secrets right here. Number one, have you ever heard of JobScan?
Not really.
Okay, it's totally cool if you haven't. I didn't either, until someone shared it with me, and I thought it was amazing. So what I love about this tool, it's a way to, scan your LinkedIn or your resume and see how well it relates to the job description, right? I'll tell you this from my own experience, because I've been a part of the hiring process for different companies. When you submit a resume, it's going to go through a lot of different people, but ultimately what they're looking for is how well do you fit their job description, right? Obviously they put the job description together, they chose specific words because they're looking for a person who can match that job description. And funny enough, not enough people use the same words that are listed in the job description. And by default, those people just get weeded out. And so a nice tactic that I do is I try to, get a sense of the job description and my own resume and see what are the, how are they relating? So let's try an example here. So if I pull, let's just try mine. So if I go to my profile, and by the way, if you don't have an updated LinkedIn, please go update it. I don't know if you know, but LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. It's literally how I've gotten so many different recruiters reaching out to me because of, the keywords that I use and the, how I keep it up to date. So definitely recommend you guys do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also agree to that. I mean, a couple of the only two jobs I have had have both come from LinkedIn as well. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So if I were to try this, I'm not sure how this would work, but let's try it anyways. And then let's try where I want to work. Let's try Google Product Manager. This is just to show you an example. Who knows how it's going to come out. But ultimately what you do is you can copy your resume items. You can use your LinkedIn as well. And come on. And then it'll give you a score, a nice score assessment of how well you would be for this role, knowing that it's looking at the specific keywords. So let's try this whole thing. Boom, copy, paste, go here. Again, it is a free service. I think you can pay for it so that you can get like more information, but I haven't paid for it. Next. Mentor. Okay. So low match. I totally get that because I didn't put my whole resume there, but it gives you a sense of like, okay, what are the keywords that are used in the job description, and then how do they match to your keywords, right? So you can see here, you know, the job description, there's 10 uses of the word product. You know, they use technical a lot, they use design, they use marketing, legal, blah, 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 right? 2 times. And so if you're able to add those keywords to your resume somehow and showcase that you have an experience or a story worth talking about, then I always say add it, right?
Okay.
That is one tip. Make sure that your resume, you know, highlights your skill set, or sorry, highlights the skill sets that are needed from the resume, from the job description. And then what I would do is also work on framing your stories. So let's say let me take a step back. Let's say you've never done any marketing ever, right?
Okay.
But there's two, they're using it twice, and you know, it's probably something that they want. What do you do? I mean, this is what I've done. I literally, for like maybe a weekend, learn as much as I can about marketing, right? I try to find out, you know, like resources, blogs, you know, stuff like that. And in a way, I try to do something that shows I have some type of marketing experience, right? And so now let's go to your second question, which was like, okay, what kind of opportunities? What can I do? Like, where do I find stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. I started this like idea of going and talking to businesses, local businesses who have really bad websites. So like, for example, I live here in Glendale. There's this one website that is just awful. Like it could use some help. I think it's this place. Yeah, I think it's this one, maybe. If you think about it, like a lot of people, especially businesses, are still on older experiences, and they're not optimized for mobile. They're not, you know, optimized for anything really, and it's crazy. So like, what would I do if I were you? I would actually try to identify local businesses or people who have like really bad experience. Like you go to the site and you're like, wow, this is not good. Right? But you look at them and you'd say, okay, if I was a product manager for these people, or if they hired me, how would I do this? How would I fix this? What would I do? Right? And so this goes back to like that product audit, right? So I go through and I say, okay, well, what is this built on? Looks like this is built on Squarespace. It's a CMS. Maybe you don't know what a CMS is, or you don't know what Squarespace is. Go in and do some research, right? Okay, Squarespace. What do they use? Whose other sites that are being built on Squarespace, right? Okay, so now you know that. Then you look at it and you say, okay, well, you know, this is a restaurant, and I would suspect that you would. What's the number one thing that people want to know when they go to a website for restaurants? Usually it's the menu, right? But like here you have like so many different options. You know, like from an accessibility standpoint, this is very bad. You know, accessibility is a very hot topic right now. Like websites who are not accessible to the, you know, visually impaired, or to the, you know, people who they need, you know, to hear the words being said. You can actually get into a lawsuit, right? Like if I was disabled and I could not, you know, actually navigate this site because of how bad it is from an accessibility standpoint, I could technically sue you. So that's another area where you can, like, you know, be like, okay, accessibility, mobile friendliness, you know, that kind of thing. And you know, this actually could turn into a potential job, like not job that you're going to work for them, but like a you know, a way to make some side money, right? Because you're saying right here, he's like, hey, your site, you know, I love your food. You make the best sushi. I come here all the time, but I noticed that your site is a little old and outdated. You know, I'm a product manager. You know, here's some of the recommendations that I would do for your site. Boom, show them, right? You do the work, do the research, and if, by the way, if you want someone to do it, I can do it. I'll do it for you, right? And you can even charge them. You can say, hey, I'll do it for $2,000, right? And obviously, you know, you have to know like the pricing or whatever. But this is actually a model that has worked for me, where I've gone to businesses. I say, hey, I see your site is not too good. You know, I can do this. Here's my recommendations. You throw it on their, you know, their laps, and you say, I'm here if you need me. If not, no hard feelings, right? You gave them some value. You got some experience. Both
Yeah.
win-win, and it can be a triple win if you actually get potentially you know, a side gig from that. And now I'm not saying that, I mean, I think you said that you had some engineering skills, right?
Yeah. So my big challenge is most of my experience has been on an enterprise product.
Yeah.
And I see some amount of differences between a consumer side product management and an enterprise side kind of a product management, right? So, and most of our products doesn't even are not hosted on the cloud, are hosted behind the firewall, where we
Yeah.
cannot now gather a lot of those statistics and a lot of those iterations that we could dynamically do through experimentations for the consumer based products. So basically getting those experiences or projects related to an enterprise seems challenging to me. Either I have to have relationship with some of the startups where I am where I have my connections and
Yeah.
start providing their help, because in enterprises mostly it would be an domain based. You need to be able to add value to what they are trying to do. So
Yeah.
that becomes kind of a challenge. Okay. So I'm trying exploring, connecting to some of my friends who are who are working, who have their own startups, and
Yeah.
trying to provide the consultancy. But not significant kind of an learning or maybe I need to try harder, as you said, try pick up some of the startups who are in communications, and then start reviewing them and start providing some of the feedback, and then and then see how they respond. Maybe I might not be trying enough
Well,
on
yeah. Yeah, I think yes, definitely being able to identify those startups and seeing,
yeah.
you know, how you can help. I mean, here's one other way of thinking about it. Like, you know, I'm sure you use a lot of products yourself, right?
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, whether they're paid enterprise B2B type of products or consumer facing products. You know, and, you know, a product manager has been on that side uh, to build that thing, right?
Yeah.
And let's say, you know, you want to stretch your muscles in the B2B world. Fine. You know, find a product that you right now use, you love, you absolutely love, and how can you make it better, right? Like literally just say to yourself, how can I make this better? Even if you're not getting a job at that place, right? But just again, I harp on this whole idea of like saying thank you, because you never know how what that thank you can do in the form of um, you know, sharing your perceived expertise on how to make it better, right? Because I have not this hasn't happened to me, but I could imagine that potentially if you connected with a product manager. So like one of the things I recently started using was Roadmonk as a road mapping tool, and absolutely loved it. I Was using it for roadmaps, and it was really nice. It was drag and drop. And, but I noticed a couple things, a couple areas that I was like, oh, this can be improved. Right. And instead of just like, doing the normal thing of like, sending a feedback with just an email and some text, I literally, like, again, used my product expertise, and I said, okay, screenshot this. Here's, what I noticed the problem was here. Here's how I would do it. Again, as a way to say thank you. Like, this is a great product. I want to help you guys make it better. No strings attached. I just want the product to be better. Here you go. And I didn't do this specifically with RoadMonk, but I did reach out to one of the product managers on RoadMonk to share how just say thank you for like a great product. Like I said, like, I wanted to help be an affiliate. Like I wanted to help, like, share or spread the word, be an evangelist in a way. And they reached out and they said, oh, we can offer you an opportunity to, for every person that signs up, we can give you a commission. And I was like, whoa, that's awesome. Like, I didn't expect that. Like, this is my goal, but it was just like a cool way of saying, like, connection and doing stuff like that it goes a long way. Because every day, as you guys probably know, as product managers or wanting to be product managers, every day you're so just doing the thing. You're building, you're grinding, and you forget that there's other people on the other side sometimes. And the moment that a person on the other side can say thank you or can give you recommendations, you're basically making their job easier. And they're going to love that. They're going to want you, or potentially they're going to want to work with you or whatever, because you're interested, you're invested into them, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to think about as you're thinking through where you want to go. And after this call, I can share a couple opportunities right now that I'm up against. Like I've identified a couple businesses that want improvements to their sites, and I'm looking for product managers or aspiring product managers who want to get their feet wet and want to get some experience, and I'll kind of like shadow them and get them to kind of do the things and manage. I'm using Upwork for development. And so basically it's almost a way to get you some experience of how do you manage a development person or team, right? How do you manage design and how do you manage a client? How do you deliver something, right? How do you show success? All that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if that's something that interests you, then we can talk after.
Sure. I think I'd be more than interested, to take this, have to work with you, and then contribute to those projects, because I've been doing that over the last 15 years.
Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Well, we're almost at time, and I'm gonna stop sharing.
One last thing, would you be sharing the measurement plan? I really like that. The way you have put across and structure. The one thing that I've learned throughout is, irrespective of the tool, as long as you can make your life simple with very simple tools, it can be an simple Excel sheet. What works for you is what matters.
Yes.
Yeah, if you could just share that template, that'll be
I will.
Really helpful. Yeah.
I would definitely share it. I'll include it in my recap email to you guys, as well as a couple other resources that I shared, and just kind of like how we can move forward, right? If you guys want to continue or whatever. Because again, I decided to start helping people, especially product managers, ever since I actually joined this startup, this InStride company, the startup, because of the fact that I'm in education world right now, right? Ed tech. And I realized that I've learned so much because of my hunger for education and building myself. And being in the space now, it's like, wow, like I have so much knowledge. I have never shared it with people, right? So now it's like, okay, now I want to give back. And it's been really fulfilling. It's been amazing to know, like, I can share my failures and my experience with people so that they can accelerate their process. That's what I want to do, is I want to help people get to their destination faster and more accurate, like a product manager would for their own product. and the best way I can do that is through coaching, and I'm putting out actually a course real soon. But really my intention, my goal is to help you guys and make sure if you guys really want to take this to the next level, like I'm a resource, right? Um, and yeah, if you guys want to, learn more, I'll send like I said, a recap email of like how we can work closer together. And I'm planning on launching a YouTube channel that has a little bit more as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. But ultimately, I want to stay connected. And this was awesome. I'm so happy you guys had a chance to be here with me and ask your questions. And if we're not already on LinkedIn, then let's connect and go from there.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely like that. Actually, in fact, I wanted to connect with all the three of you, all the people in the conversation, because
Yeah.
it was a really good insight that I got, especially when you related your personal self as a product, and that is how you improve at every stage. And I really love that part.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think I have a brilliant idea with that I'm I'm going and executing on. Like I'm literally I've had a couple talks now with product school, and those talks have actually been a little bit more, yes, I talk about product, but I also related back to like, going back to the Jay Shetty world of like personal development and things like that, like applying product management to your life in the sense that, your life, you are a product, right? And the choices you make are like the choices you would make in building a product, a physical product or digital product. And so having your own life vision, your own goals, and like, what is it called? Retrospective of like, okay, how do we do this sprint? How do we do this week? Right. And like assessing, what do we do good? What do we need to improve? What are some action items? Right. Like that is a great way of thinking about your own life and how do you become better. And so I'll include that as well in terms of the resources, the Trello board, the spreadsheet, roadmap spreadsheet of for your life, and be on the lookout. I'm gonna have a lot more of that stuff for you guys.
Sure. That'll be great. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Rich. Yeah, I echo what Ashray said. It has been really insightful, especially the way that you put together an plan of treating yourself as a product and putting together a plan of where you want to be tomorrow and what actions you are taking today now to make that happen. I think that is really important
Yes.
because we have seen as a product manager now from others what customers says and what customers do is different, so it applies to us also because in this case we ourselves as a customer and we need to create a product for ourselves. So I think I think those are really bright insights. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you again. I appreciate your time.
I'm just gonna say, to be really honest, I'm just really happy to see that somebody else is also doing this, because I had put in so much time reading about agile. I was just at one point I was just thinking I'm just going crazy applying it to my own life and building Trello boards. So I'm really happy a successful PM is also doing the same shit.
Yeah. No, you're on the right track, man. I mean, hey, like if it works for you, if you get it, then do it. It's working for me. So hopefully if you guys haven't tried it, it actually in a way almost reinforces your product management skills too, right? Because you're saying, okay, what would I do in product? Okay, well, I would do sprints. I would, give myself goals for the sprints. I would give myself a retro at the end. I would, all of that, right? It's same thing. So.
Yeah. I've actually noticed a huge difference in what I'm able to get done in a sprint, which I have made like a couple of weeks, to comparing it to what I was doing before, prepping for the same stuff. But just the tracking part and just doing the retrospectives and the planning on a weekend, I think it makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah. For sure. Awesome. Well, that really touches me. I mean, that's awesome that you guys shared such great feedback. I really appreciate that. It gives me a lot of motivation to keep doing these sessions. And again, if you want to have a personal one-on-one session, more maybe even mock interviews, I do offer that. So just reach out to me personally, and we'll go from there. But again, the purpose of this was just for you guys to hear other people's questions, for you to hear my thoughts on things, and now, like, yeah, connect with each other and maybe even help each other out, right? Because this is pretty cool. You guys, you know, made some hopefully new friends. I will be creating an actual group, like a Facebook group of all the people that reached out to me. There's another way of like connecting with people that are also very like-minded and interested in this kind of world, and at least what I share. So be on the lookout for that. But other than that, I mean, again, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to meet.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for your insights.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, we will connect again. Thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Bye.